Welcome to We've Got Issues, Girl. We are a weekly podcast about politics for women. My name is Carrie.
My name is Sky, and we are not live on Facebook today. We've pre-recorded this, but we still are excited to be here and talk politics today. We're going to be speaking with Representative Juanita Brent from the Cleveland area. I'm super pumped. She's such a badass.
Fascinating. So we wanted to have her on last week's episode with the Matriots because she is endorsed by Matriots, which is a PAC to help women run for office. But we had some technical difficulties, but we're so thankful that she made time for us this week because she really is doing real work in the State House.
Oh my God.
And so it was awesome to speak to a young woman in the State House. So it was cool. How are you doing, Sky?
Oh, I'm pretty good. It's been a rainy couple days here in Northwest Ohio. I got caught in it while driving both times. So I'm not sure what that says about my luck. Maybe I should just stay home.
Yeah, you should. But you can't because you're back working.
I'm back working. I was dog sitting this week, which was super fun. And yeah, it's, life is pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm officially unemployed now, not just temporarily. So it's a different time for me. But I think I'm going to have a very special announcement maybe in the next few podcasts because I'm working on something really big and I feel like the universe is pushing me in this direction. And so I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to take that leap,
Hell yeah.
Go for it and shoot for the stars.
Shoot for the stars, friend.
Accomplish all my dreams. Yeah.
So
I mean,
excited.
I'm feeling very positive today, but then other days I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing?
It's a fucking nightmare. Let's talk about the reality of it. Sorry, Mom. I said the F word. I love you, but
every day is an emotional roller coaster, quite honestly.
I mean, yes. And it just is never ending. We're having higher rates of infection than we did at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's awful. Everything is terrible. I'm never leaving my house again. I'm not even going to go grocery shopping. We're just going to eat.
That's how I feel too. And then plus, I mean, we've talked about this weeks ago on another podcast about the
politicization
of masks. Thank you, Sky. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And like Trump won't say it. Republicans won't say wear masks. Democrats are like shaming everyone into wearing masks. And it's this constant battle. And social media is a dumpster fire. And
oh my God.
Meanwhile, I'm over here just hoarding away. I'm a meat I'm a paper products hoarder. And now I'm a mask hoarder because I decided that if we're going to just have to wear masks forever now, I might as well get cute ones that match every outfit. So I'm going for it. And I bought a bunch of ones today and I've made some with my sewing machine and this is just going to be like
good for you.
Accessory for my wardrobe, I guess. So
yeah, it's real. I mean, also I don't want to leave the house because I don't love wearing masks. I mean, I do it because I care about other people. Yeah. But it sucks and my skin is really sensitive. So, I mean.
You have very precious, sensitive skin.
I have precious, sensitive skin.
Yeah. No,
but, yeah, it's not. I mean, we've talked about this too before, this idea of toxic masculinity and men not wearing masks. I listened to Hysteria this week. Yeah. I think it was a couple days, maybe last week's episode about this, toxic masculinity and
yeah.
It's
toxic
terrible.
Masculinity.
Yeah. I see what you did there. That was a good one.
It's a good one. Well, let's jump into our interview with Representative Brent. So
I'm so excited.
Let's welcome her now.
Here we go.
Welcome, Representative Juanita Brent, to the show today. We're really excited to have you. We wanted to have you on last week, but we had technical difficulties, and we had some technical difficulties today too. But thank you for being here. First, to start out, will you share a little bit about yourself and about your district?
Sure. My name is Juanita Brent. I just happen to be a state representative for House District 12. So my district is a little part of Cleveland and 9 suburbs, which consists of the southeast portion of Cuyahoga County. I'm in my first term as a state representative. I really do enjoy this, to say the least, because you really get to see how laws really affect people in a very everyday, basic way. I was able to pass my first bill into law in my freshman year, which is something they tell you you will never be able to do, which is House Bill 285, which allows people to have amnesty when they are dealing with a suspended driver's license here in the state of Ohio. So I'm super encouraged to be here because, girlfriend, we got issues.
We do have issues.
We do. That was the perfect timing for me to come back in. Love it.
Sky made it back. Yes, we do have issues. And so we're glad that you can recognize that and tell us about some of those issues too. But before we get into that, how did you even get started in politics?
Well, I've always been around it in some form or fashion. I was raised by my aunt, who actually was a legislator herself. She was a state rep for 16 years. So I just saw it my entire life. But I will be honest with you, I did not have any desire to go into public office because I knew the sacrifice that it took to be in this role. And I just saw you almost have to be really disciplined with your time, your effort, and how you spend time with your family. And I was like, this is not the life for me. I don't want to be away from home. And look at me doing the exact same thing I told myself I wasn't going to do.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're doing, I mean, really important work, and what a way to learn from like family members. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, very much. So one of the bills that you introduced and passed was House Bill 285, the driver's license reinstatement bill. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why that was so important?
So it's so important that I passed House Bill 285 because just here within the state of Ohio, we rank 14th highest in the state when it comes to ridership. But when it comes to funding for public transit, we are 49th in the nation. So if somebody gets a suspended driver's license, they don't have any way to get to work, to get to school, or to just get around, period, here within the state of Ohio. So it's such a necessity that people have a car and they can get around. And that price of a suspended driver's license can be a huge barrier. It can be almost $6,000.
Oh my gosh.
Talk about Ohio's minimum wage not being a livable wage. And when we talk about we're not investing into public transit, when we talk about food deserts, when we talk about just so many different issues.
There's so many pieces of the puzzle.
Yes. Yeah.
Gosh.
This is just, it's going to help so many people to be able to have access to a driver's license.
Yeah. Awesome. And that's always been something that I've never really understood about, our law and our traffic laws, is this like punitive over and over, this punishment for not having a valid driver's license. And then, but yet people still drive because we know they do. And then they get punished again. And it's like, the punishment doesn't fit the crime, if you will. You know what I mean? It seems pretty minor thing to like continue to punish people for, but yeah.
So where is this bill at in the whole process of how a bill becomes a law?
It's been signed into law. It got signed into law in June.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's huge.
Yeah.
And so it's huge because when you come in as a freshman, they'll tell you, we have people who are going into their fourth term, and they say, I've never had a bill make it to the floor of the House. And you come in kind of feeling defeated already, that you're never going to have anything that's going to be successful. And so I'm just so grateful that it's become law now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Congrats. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
So one of the other things that you've signed on to, and we've been seeing this around the country, is that you signed on to the resolution to designate racism as a public health crisis. Yes. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
So it means a lot. So as legislators, we just really have to look at how, racism affects people just on a very everyday basis. So right now here within the state of Ohio, we have some of the worst infant mortality rates just nationwide. So recently there was a report that came out, I'm just using this as an example, that infant mortality rates have gone down, but it was only for white women, like literally it was just for white people. So as a state, if it's only happening for one group, but then it's becoming worse for Black people, we have to right size that service for the disproportionate amount of people. And that was for Black people. So, I mean, racism affects how we kind of look at things as a whole. And so we have to look at things from a racial equity lens. And that's the biggest thing about how we just look at how we do deals. And is this serving everyone and not just some people?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
we talked a little bit about the infant mortality and the maternal mortality rate in the Black community with Paula Hicks Hudson, State Rep Paula Hicks Hudson last week.
So Paula did, in her episode, kind of touched on what it's like working in the State House right now when you're, overwhelmingly the minority, right? Because there's not very many Democrats right now. But one of the things that happened recently, I would love to hear your opinions on. Republicans rejected a ban on Confederate flags at county fairs. And it's so baffling to me because Ohio was not even in the Confederacy. We are a Union state. So why does Ohio have any connection to a Confederate flag other than white supremacy? Honestly, like I don't even understand it. So will you tell us a little bit about like how that even came about and what it was like to see them not ban Confederate flags?
So for one, I like to tell you and everyone listening, I sit as a ranking member on agriculture and rural development. I love farming. I love agriculture. I mean, I feel like you have to know where your food is coming from. So that's just the one thing where that came from. But this all came from House Bill 665, which actually is a bill that was going to update the Red Book for all county independent fairs, which is basically like their Bible. Okay. If you know anything about 4-H, if you've been involved, I've been involved in 4-H since my whole life as a child, you know that the Red Book is their Bible for the county independent fairs. And we were updating their Bible. So I said, well, since we're updating this important book, why not update it to the standards that the state has? And one of the state standards we have is that it prohibits the sale, display, or the expression of Confederate flags. The biggest concern is that as a ranking member, I had to take a tour across the state of Ohio and visit about 25 different state fairs. And one thing that was very apparent was people flying Confederate flags that if I wasn't a person it made me feel very uncomfortable. So I could just imagine people who live there, who want to attend, but it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And just the basic thing, Ohio was never part of the Confederacy. It was actually part of the Union, and we lost the most soldiers as members of the Union. And so that's a big piece of history that we lost so many soldiers, and now people have to be rolling over in their grave to see these flags are still flying in Ohio of all places.
Right. It just, that's never really been something that I've understood, even in the southern states, even in the states that were part of the Confederacy, because it's like, you guys lost. Like, why do you still, like, you're holding this symbol because that you're so proud of, but like you lost. It's so bizarre to me, but I think that leads even more into evidence that like it's not anything about the Confederacy. Honestly, I think it's like 100% about racism is what they're trying to hold on to.
Yes.
And I think it's just making excuses to say you're proud of the Confederacy, because who's proud of the Confederacy? They lost like badly. So get over it. It's just shocking to me.
They were considered as being treasonous. We just had a colonel in the Army who just announced that was a treasonous act to be a part of the Confederacy. He just said that yesterday.
Yeah.
So we just have to take that seriously. And the reason why the Confederacy existed because they wanted to keep the slaves, like period. Right. Even to the point they were so mad that they went and had somebody assassinate Abraham Lincoln.
I know.
I mean, like.
I know. This is nothing to be proud of. People, like, there's no reason you need to fly this flag. Like, no, let's.
It's just like digging your heels in. I feel like they just are taking a stand because they want to be contrarian, and racist.
I think a lot of people just don't always know the history of even why Abraham Lincoln was killed. Mm-hmm. And he, when we think about one of the most famous presidents, you think about Abraham Lincoln and what he did of, freeing the slaves, and who would have known that was going to make him a target to be assassinated.
Yeah.
So, we we have to, protect our history, and the Confederacy is not part of our history. That was part of people who wanted to take over our country.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think by protecting our history, we need to do a better job of showing like this was wrong. What they did was wrong. What the states did when in trying to secede was wrong and treasonous. So like, let's not have statues of these soldiers and fly a flag that represents something that was wrong. Let's focus on the better parts of the Civil War, right?
Mhm.
So it's just it's something that I just still don't understand, and I have to have continual conversations, mostly in the comment threads on social media, right? Because that's where I'm not friends with these people in real life, but that's where I interact with most of them, and it's just let's move on, people. That was a long time ago, and not a great part of our history either. Nothing to be proud of, that's for sure.
So what else do you have going? What else are you working on in the State House?
Well, another bill that I'm really excited about is this patient hand hygiene bill. And I actually introduced the bill before, the pandemic actually even occurred. And one thing we realize is that when people go to the hospitals, you are not taught to wash your hands. They are not telling you when you're laying in a hospital bed that you need to wash your hands or sanitize your hands before you eat your meal or after you had a surgical procedure or when you enter the actual hospital. Imagine how many times you might have had your baby. No one's telling you to wash their hands when they're entering the room with you and your newborn baby. Or if you have surgery and you just think about that, you might tell your friends that, but it should be automatically telling people like, hey, you enter a hospital, you need to wash your hands.
Yeah.
So this pandemic has just really hit home on that message of hand hygiene and how we need to just educate people. And we've not really done a proper job as America, or particularly as a state, about educating people about that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's really important as kids head back to school. And I mean, if school is happening, I'm not sure if there's a clear answer on that yet either. But as we try to operate in this new normal, I mean, it's so important that we wash our hands even more than before COVID, right? So that's awesome. That's good.
Yes.
Anything else you're working on?
So something else I'm working on is a Crown Act, and it stemmed from a couple different situations right here in Ohio where young people were discriminated upon their hair. It was a young guy right here in Ohio. He was a wrestler, and they made him cut his locks.
Yeah.
And I was watching a video of it. I said, well, what does his locks have to do with him being a good wrestler? Like was just very confused. And then it was another young lady here in Cleveland Heights, which is right up here in Cleveland, who was wearing a hijab, and she couldn't do that to be on the track team. And it's been so many different situations where people, because of their hair or what they do to cover up their hair, has not been able to perform. Like right now I'm wearing a turban, but I mean, in certain situations, I wouldn't be able to do that, to perform.
Yeah, no,
cool.
We've had a couple instances like that in our area in Toledo too, of kids not being able or getting kicked out of school, or not being able to run track because of hijab or how their hair looks. So and I think we had a local ordinance passed too by Councilman Nick Comives. So it's good to see it on a state level as well. So that is the
first place to pass here in Ohio. That was the first place.
Yeah, awesome. So what is the biggest challenge in the State House right now?
Oof. I imagine it is all quite challenging, especially now.
People not listening to science, people not listening to the people they represent. There's a lot of, I know what's best, but science is telling us we're wrong with some of the things we're doing with the numbers, and ignoring this civil unrest. Every day there's a protest in Columbus. I'm serious. Every day you can go down there. I tell you, these young people who are down there, they are taking shifts and they are down there, and you cannot ignore the cries of the people. And so, not listening to the people, and that's where it just brings a lot of contentions of people who do listen to the public outcry and those who don't.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so frustrating. Yeah, I worked in Columbus. I worked for a Columbus state rep many years ago, but I miss it. But I don't think I would miss it now. We were in the majority for like 1 year when I was working for the state rep. It was so fun.
Yeah, I
And
bet.
I just know that right now we are living in unusual times and nobody prepares you for dealing with a pandemic where you're used to being able to have like meetings where you can meet people and everyone now is doing things virtually. And now there's even more of a need for people to be deal with connectivity. Because one thing that I can speak from was a lot of communities, you tend to have a lot of older people that come out for events, and that tends to be your base no matter where you live in the state of Ohio. But this new normal is kind of a huge barrier for a lot of people to connect with their elected officials as a whole. So we're just trying to figure out how we can connect with people in our communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're running for re-election right now, right?
Yes, I am.
So
yes,
I imagine
this to be a candidate, I imagine.
Yeah, this new normal is it's hard to run for office right now, right? What is challenging about your race right now?
The most challenging part is just trying to figure out how do you engage with people, because most voters, when we were just looking at even in my district, they're not on the traditional Facebook or Instagram. They're on there, but they're not particularly looking for that for me. They're not going to look at the Facebook to see who the state rep is. They're going on Facebook to look at their grandchildren or their family members' pictures. So just how do you engage people for more than just 10 seconds to remember you and remember what you're doing? So it's a lot of implementing of sending things in the mail, sending things via Facebook or ads, or sending emails, sending them a lot of things just to be very creative. And even like putting like door knockers without knocking on the door, but just like leaving door hangers on the door, because we know people are leaving in and out of the house, but they don't particularly want you knocking on their door.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure I want to knock on people's door either. And I love canvassing.
She does.
Like,
she does. Yeah.
That's my shit, man.
Yeah.
So like text message. I know I did a lot of texting, like automatic texting, to be informative to people, saying like, hey, letting you know this is when you can start early voting, and being more informative to the people I serve. So just getting out of that comfort zone of a box, that campaigning is not just sending literature in the mail and hoping that people are going to respond back.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're different times. It's pretty incredible. So one important part of this podcast is we want to get more women involved in politics, whether it's to run for office or to help someone else run for office, or even just be engaged enough to start voting if you've never voted for. So what advice would you, or why do you think it's important for more women to be involved in politics?
It's so vital that our voices are heard and we are at the table and we demand a place at the table. There, if you look at, even at the State House right now, there's only, about 30 women total out of 132.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hardly no women that are there. So when you talk about issues of fighting about family, you're fighting about reproductive, you're talking about equal pay for equal work, you're talking about the minimum wage being a livable wage. Those are just different conversations that have not taken ground within our state. And that's because we don't have enough women at the table. And I'm not saying that only women bring up those things, but we're the ones dealing with our families. So if you're dealing with a situation where you and your husband are working the same job and you're making less than him, you're going to be concerned about, about how much money women are making long term, because you equally want to bring money to the table too. And also about healthcare and about childcare. And so we need more women that are there. And I'll say this for any woman that's listening, you are more than enough. You don't have to go out here and go get a PhD, MD, MED. Just come with your heart and the ability to read and a real willingness to listen and willing to do the work. You are more than enough. And I was literally talking to a woman before I came here on this podcast who was really talking herself out of running for office. And I said, why are you doing that? Like, everything you need, you already have. You have life experience. You have a career. You're doing this, like everything that you need to do. So there will be no perfect situations of what it's like to be a candidate. You just run, and you run like hell.
Yeah. I mean, that's what men do. There's no, men don't have to be perfect to run. In fact, they can be mediocre at best and run and win. So I think women put a lot more pressure on ourselves before we run. But we do that in normal life because we juggle so many different hats and so many different expectations. It's much different than when men run for office. That is for sure.
People told me crazy things when I first decided I wanted to run. Somebody was like, "Oh, Juanita, you need to lose some weight. You need to get married. You need to, all these." People were telling me all these life things that you need to have in order. Like, well, who's going to protect you if something happens to you and you're not married? Like, you need a man around. And I was like, what do I need a man around? Like, what? Like, they told me that like nobody's going to want to work with you. I just passed my whole first bill.
I know.
Yeah.
Like,
people have been in office for decades and have never done that.
Yes. So we just have in the sense of just encouraging women that you are more than enough and that you belong here at the State House. So we are waiting for all of you ladies to come run.
Awesome. Oh, that's so badass. I feel so excited.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So someone, like you mentioned a woman reached out to you today about being afraid to run. What would be the first step you would recommend to someone who's interested in running for any office?
For any office is read the position, like actually get to know what the position does, like how often do they meet. Being a state rep, you're gone so many days out of the week. Is that the sacrifice you're willing to make with your life? And then also just know, what it takes to actually run. Do you have to get a petition? Is this something you need to be appointed to? And this position, like, is somebody about to retire? Just know who the game players are within this. And then the biggest thing is, if you're going to run, know your win number. That's the one key. Ooh. Like, know how many votes you need to win and know who the voters are. Don't talk to people that aren't voters. Like, stop wasting your time trying to convince somebody to vote, and then you're trying to convince them to vote for you. If they didn't vote 5 years in a row, you're not going to be the motivation for them to vote. Talk to the people that naturally already vote and go from there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such good advice.
Yeah. Sky and I work with a lot of candidates, and like that is like the biggest rookie move is to, I mean, it's very noble to think that you're going to be the one to change people's minds, and like good for you to like think you can
not
do
real.
it. Like, let's not waste our time here. Let's go for it.
Change them once you get into office.
Yeah,
exactly. With your actions and with what the legislation that you pass, that will do it.
Yeah.
So how can our listeners get involved with what you're doing? How can they follow you and keep in touch?
Also, I love social media, so I'm definitely big on social media. My Twitter and my Instagram are the same. Handle is at Juanita_Brent. And then on Facebook, my personal Facebook account is very public, but then I also have like an official Facebook account, which is Juanita O. Brent. So I'm very active. I do a lot of Insta stories because I like people seeing what it's like for being a state rep for the day, which this will be on my Insta story too.
Oh, cool.
But,
it's awesome that people can connect and relate, and they know what we're doing with our time, because that's the biggest thing. People feel like elected officials are not doing anything and that we're just sitting at home. Well, technically I'm sitting at home, but they were doing nothing. And every day I'm working hard for the people. So I feel like I owe that information to the people, because the taxpayers is what pays me.
Yeah.
So guys are my bosses, and I owe an explanation to my boss every day what I'm doing.
Awesome. Will you, before we say goodbye, will you leave our listeners with a call to action?
Okay. The call to action now is, do not ignore this civil unrest. There are many people who are hurting, no matter if it's from unemployment, no matter if it's from dealing with the trauma of having to watch a video of a man dealing with his interaction with the police. But everyone can do something. Your one ask for yourself is to go vote. If you really want to be great by choice, your second ask is to go hold the people you have accountable that are elected to office by showing up to meetings. Right now, a lot of people are doing Zoom meetings. So showing up to those Zoom meetings. If you want to be the superstar, run for office.
Yeah.
So everyone has something they can give, but it all starts off with using your voice and going to go vote. And that's the most important thing right now.
Yeah.
So powerful.
For sure. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today. Sky and I will wrap up. So we'll end this interview now and just kind of piece it. We'll splice it together. But we're gonna post this video Tuesday to our Facebook page, and then the podcast will also be available Tuesday on like Spotify and Apple and all the podcast stuff. But we'll make sure that we are tagging you on social media too when we do some promo, so we can get people to your social media too and get in contact with you.
I'm going to follow all your stuff right now.
Yeah.
Okay. See you
Thank
later.
you so much. It was so great to meet you.
Bye.
Appreciate all you do. Bye. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We will be back next Tuesday for another episode of We've Got Issues, Girl.
Yes.
Thank you so much to Rep. Juanita Brent.
Yes.
What a back.
So amazing. We will link all of her social media to this video if you're watching us on Facebook, and we'll also put it in the show notes if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, because we want you guys to engage with her because she is amazing. So
yeah.
Thank you. And also, if you are in Texas today on July 14th, go vote, because you have like a second primary, a runoff, because your first primary didn't decide any candidates apparently. So you can vote, go vote again. Doesn't everyone love voting? You can vote so many times.
Only one more time, and you can only vote in the primary which you voted in on March 3rd, apparently.
Oh, so many rules. Fine.
We'll also link to some resources for that.
We will, definitely. So thank you for watching. Our music today is by Breakmaster Cylinder. This has been a Girls Media production. If you're interested in joining our super cool girl group online, head to girlscommunity.com and check out our other podcasts like Girls Podcast, Add a Girl, and Glow Girl. Thank you. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.